What if your words could influence anyone without saying much at all? Some say it's a hidden skill only a few master, but now these psychology backed methods are finally being revealed. Want to become unforgettable in any conversation? Stick around and don't forget to subscribe for more secret success formulas. Have you ever left a conversation feeling like your words didn't land? Or worse, like no one was even listening? That feeling? It sticks, and it happens to almost everyone at some point. But here's the twist. Being a better communicator doesn't mean talking more. It means knowing how to talk and when to stop. Psychology has quietly uncovered 6 surprising techniques that can make you stand out in conversations without being loud, pushy, or over the top. And one of these tips, coming up soon, can flip how people respond to you in less than 30 seconds. Let's get into it. Tip 1, choose your words like they matter, because they do. Words are powerful. They can either pull people in or push them away. Let's say someone tells their coworker, "You're always late." That sentence, even if true, feels like an attack. Now imagine the same thought expressed as, "It would mean a lot to me if we could start on time." Same idea, very different vibe. This is why choosing your words with care matters. It's not about sugarcoating. It's about making sure your message is received the way you intend it to be. Here's a real-world example. A project manager once noticed that her team was shutting down during meetings. After some coaching, she began rephrasing her feedback. Less about what they were doing wrong, more about what she noticed and needed. Within weeks, participation soared. So next time you're tempted to say something blunt, pause. Ask yourself, how would I feel hearing this? Instead of, "You never listen," say, "I feel unheard sometimes, and I'd love us to fix that." The shift is small, but the impact? Massive. Stick around, because the next tip has nothing to do with speaking, but everything to do with being heard. Tip 2, the listening trick that changes everything. We often think communication is about expressing ourselves clearly, but real communication starts when we listen. And not just the sure kind of listening, but the kind where someone feels like you're actually tuned in. This is called active listening. It's when you give someone your full attention, not just to reply, but to understand. Here's a story to bring it to life. A team leader once struggled to connect with one of her employees who was always distant. Instead of pushing for answers, she simply asked, "What's been on your mind lately?" Then she sat back and truly listened. No advice, no interruptions. At the end of that conversation, the employee said, "That's the first time I felt heard in months." Active listening isn't complicated, but it takes intention. Here's how to do it. Make eye contact, don't interrupt. Let them finish their thoughts, even if there's a pause. Summarize what they said. "So it sounds like the deadline is really overwhelming?" When people feel heard, they open up. They respect your words because you respected theirs. Next up, what you say without speaking is often louder than any sentence. Tip 3, the silent skill that speaks louder than words. Have you ever said one thing, but your body said something else? That's body language at work, and it plays a huge role in how people perceive you. In fact, research shows that most of our communication is nonverbal. Your posture, facial expressions, tone, and gestures can completely change how your words are received. Let's make it real. A speaker giving a presentation stood with arms folded, eyes scanning the floor. Her message was strong, but the audience didn't connect. Why? Her body was saying, "I'm unsure." After coaching, she made a simple change: open gestures, eye contact, and a confident stance. The result? The same message landed completely differently. So, how do you get your body to back up your words? Try this. Stand tall, not stiff, just grounded. Keep your arms open rather than crossed. Make gentle eye contact. Don't stare, just connect. Smile when it feels right. A real smile creates warmth instantly. You don't need to overthink it, just be present. People are wired to pick up on cues, even subtle ones. Coming up next, the kind of questions that don't just get answers, but build real connection. Tip 4, ask questions that actually make people feel seen. Questions can either shut a conversation down or make someone feel like they matter. The difference? Thoughtfulness. Generic questions like, "How's it going?" tend to get one-word answers. But asking what's something fun you're looking forward to this week gets people to open up. Here's a great example. A quiet coworker rarely spoke up in meetings. But when her manager asked, "What part of the project are you most excited about?" her energy shifted. She smiled and shared ideas no one had heard before. Thoughtful questions show that you're curious, not just about their role, but about them. A few to try. Instead of, "Did you have a good weekend?" say, "What made your weekend special?" Instead of busy day, ask, what's something today that made you smile? These tiny shifts lead to real conversations, and they leave people walking away feeling seen. Next, the emotional superpower that takes every conversation deeper and builds trust like nothing else. Tip 5. Use empathy like it's a superpower. Empathy isn't just about being polite or patient. It's the ability to step outside your own perspective and see the world, just for a moment, through someone else's eyes. And in conversations, it's everything. Imagine this. A new employee joins a company. She's quiet, doesn't say much during meetings, and often looks uncomfortable. Her manager assumes she's disinterested, but instead of jumping to conclusions, he pulls her aside one day and says, "Hey, I've noticed you've been a bit quiet lately. Just checking in. Is something bothering you?" Turns out she was struggling with imposter syndrome. She felt like she didn't belong, like anything she said might be wrong. But that one question, it changed everything. It showed that someone noticed her, not just as a worker, but as a person. From that moment on, she began to open up, ask more questions, and contribute during team discussions. That's the power of empathy. It can transform walls into bridges. So, how do we actually practice empathy? Not just in big moments, but in daily conversations. Here are a few simple habits. Before you respond, pause. Ask yourself, what might they be feeling right now? Even just this 1-second pause creates space to be more intentional with your words. Validate their feelings, even if you don't agree. Saying something like, "That sounds tough," or "I can understand why you'd feel that way," doesn't mean you're admitting fault. It just means you're acknowledging their emotional reality. Ask follow-up questions to show you care. Try, "What would help most right now?" Or "Do you want to talk about it more?" Or "Would you rather take a break?" Notice tone and body language. Sometimes people won't say what they feel, but they show it. Empathy means noticing the unsaid, too. Let's look at another story. There was a software team constantly missing deadlines. Tension was building. Instead of cracking down harder, the project lead decided to do something unexpected. He called for a one-on-one with each team member, but not to discuss tasks. He started each conversation with, "What's one thing that's been weighing you down lately, work or otherwise?" People opened up about stress, burnout, personal issues, and more importantly, how those things were affecting their performance. Within 2 weeks, the mood shifted. Work didn't magically get easier, but people felt supported. They were more honest, more collaborative, and surprisingly, more productive. That's the silent power of empathy. You don't always need the perfect answer. Sometimes people just need to know they're not alone. And that brings us to one of the most powerful ways to make others feel connected, not just to you, but to your message. Tip 6. Don't just share facts, tell a story. We live in a world full of data, numbers, charts, bullet points, but the things we remember most, they aren't statistics, they're stories. You don't believe me? Try this. Think about the last podcast or video you loved. Chances are it wasn't just because of the facts, it was the story behind them, the emotion, the struggle, the transformation. Stories tap into how our brains are wired. When we hear a compelling story, multiple parts of our brain light up, not just the language center, but also the areas related to emotion, memory, and sensory experience. A neuroscientist named Yuri Hassin discovered that when someone tells a story and the listener is truly engaged, their brain waves start to sync up. Literally. It's called neural coupling. That's how deep the connection goes. So why aren't we using storytelling more? Probably because we think we're not good at it. But here's the truth. You don't have to be a novelist or a motivational speaker to tell a great story. You just need to follow a simple structure. Start with a relatable moment, something simple, something human, like, "Last week, I completely blanked out in a client meeting. My mind just froze." Introduce a challenge or conflict. "I felt the pressure building. I kept thinking, what if they lose trust in me?" Show the turning point or breakthrough. Then I remembered a trick I'd learned. Take a deep breath, own the pause, and refocus. So I did, and the meeting turned around. End with a lesson or takeaway. Now I keep that tool in my back pocket for every high-stakes moment, and it works. That's it. No need for epic journeys, just real moments shared with honesty and purpose. Here's another real-life example. A sales manager was trying to convince her team to adopt a new customer service tool. She had the data, response times would drop by 42%, customer satisfaction would rise, but no one cared. They were too overwhelmed to take on something new. So she shifted tactics. She said, "I want to tell you about Mark from the support team. Last week, he stayed late 3 nights in a row trying to manually respond to backlogged tickets. He was burnt out and barely had time for lunch. When we tested this new tool in his workflow, he was able to clear his queue in half the time, and he left the office at 5:10. The team leaned in. Suddenly, the tool wasn't just numbers, it was a lifeline. Here's what you can do to make your message more memorable, starting today. Turn your next presentation into a story. Introduce a problem, show the struggle, reveal the solution. Share personal experiences when giving advice. It builds trust and relatability. Inspire action through emotion. People act when they feel something, not just when they understand it. And remember, your story doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. That's what people connect with most. So let's wrap it all up. Great communication isn't about using big words or having the loudest voice. It's about speaking with care, listening with intent, showing up with empathy, and choosing words and stories that resonate. When you combine these 6 tips, you won't just be heard, you'll be remembered. Now, here's your challenge. Pick just one of these strategies. Use it today. Watch how people respond, and then come back and tell us in the comments what changed. And hey, if this helped you see communication in a new way, hit subscribe for more powerful, psychology-backed self-growth tips. Because next time, we're revealing how to shift someone's opinion without creating conflict. You won't want to miss it.